Okay, when we left off, we had just created this action categorical variable that will allow us to do a predicted probability plot that we'll use in our analysis section. And so what we'll do now is we'll just go ahead and run it and pray for no more interruptions. So it's election time and we're getting a lot of phone calls here in my home office in Dallas. So let's see, let's go to graphs, legacy to design, and there's a couple ones that are fairly similar, but we're going to use box plots, I believe. I looked at error bars and I looked at box plots, and I think the box plot for this purpose probably works a little bit better. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a simple box plot summary for groups of cases, and we're going to plot the predicted probability that we saved. We're going to plot that, and we're going to plot that against our categorical axis here, and it'll already label that by. What it'll do, it'll create a little box plot for each one of those. Now the box plots, if we adjusted them correctly, we'll change the scale a little bit and show you how they look. But what this will do is it'll give you an idea of the frequency and the probabilities across those different categories. So again, I went through, it pulled these different ones. So the null category, we had about 9,000. Fire control, about have 7,000. Search and rescue, we didn't have that many at all by the time we were done, 106. Fire rescue hazard, we had about 1,320. So this one's relatively small. And what this does is this shows you the probabilities that emerged. And because this is such a rare event, what these, the actual occurrence of them end up outside of the traditional interval, or the 95% interval. So let's click on these and let's clean them up. They don't look very good at the beginning, but eventually they'll be not bad. So first thing, let's get rid of maintain aspect ratio, and let's go to that 300-600 range. We don't really need the 400-800 this time, I don't think. But boy, we did with that other one when we had those 20,000 observations. Let's get rid of these things. So if you just click on them, on one of those numbers, those are giving you just the number of the observation number, so that you could go track it down if you wanted to. And so what we'll do here is we'll go up here to options, and I don't know if it's under options. Here it is. It's under elements, hide data labels, and that gives us a better plot. That kind of shows you what's going on here. In general, if we look at the null category, everything's really, just showing up, or EMS or assistance or whatever. We don't have a lot of variance outside of there, but the real threat comes in this kind of fire control, and search and rescue is high, right? But the most risky probabilities are in fire. So that's a little bit of information that actually works against the parameter results there. If you look at it, search and rescue might look like it's much more dangerous, and it is in some sense, but in others, the most probable occurrence of an injury are still in fire control. We can adjust this, and you can see how the results would look if we change the scale. So let's do that real quickly. Here I'm going to get rid of all these. But let's say we did from 0 to, I don't know, 0.1 instead, and then did 0.05. And let's change that and then look at kind of what the scaling would look like. You would see that it gets a little bit more. Let's say if we did 0 to 0.05, let's change that scale and see what you get here. Yeah, I mean, it's just, there's so many observations in the null, it's just so really known, and most of them are underneath. This gives you an idea of what we're doing here. So fire control here, but even here, notice there's a lot, good number of them there, even here as well. Okay, good. Let's go back and let's do the full plot. And to do that, we're going to go from 0 to 1, which is the whole scale range. We'll change 0.10. We'll keep it that way. We'll apply it there. Let's click. If you use this arrow, you should be able to get over to the number format. And let's just make those 2 decimal places. apply that. That'll get rid of some stuff there. Let's do let's make those 11s. Let's make these 11s. I think that's okay. That's not bad. We might do a little bit of tinkering here. The bar options, maybe we just do whiskers. That doesn't really matter. Categories, lines, variables. I think that's pretty good. Let's click on this. Let's give us a little bit of margin on the side just to ease it up a little bit. It gives us a little less going. Predicted probability, NFIRS action type, null category, fire control, search and rescue, and fire rescue hazard. So again, what you're going to find is fires end up having the most highest probabilities, at least in this sample. But search and rescue and fire are all elevated, especially if you change this one. So if we go back down and we change that scale, if we change it to 0.01 again, apply, you see a little bit different, but we'll keep it at the 0.1 and use that value. Okay. So I'll put 1.0 back in there, apply, and you're good. Close that out. We've got two plots, and so at this point we've got pretty much everything we need to do for the model. We'll export this just like we did before, so you go in, you'll export, you'll select non-graphics only, save it as a PNG file, probably PNG. This worked pretty good with hard edges, and so just use that same process we did last time. What do we have? Well, at the beginning we have a set of descriptive statistics. We're going to use this in the assumptions assumptions supplemental appendix write-up. We're also going to do a table of descriptive statistics. And we used this particular set of crosstabs to identify what was going to be the null category. I think in your case, you're going to have a null category of, I'll just start with the IIE as our first one. All right, so we'll start with, where is it? This one right here as our initial null. But after you do that first linear or logistic regression, you're going to have some of these parameters that look off, right? And so if you go back to EMS and you go back to assistance, you'll see why. EMS, we didn't have any injuries associated with EMS, and neither did we have any associated with assistance, at least in this sample. Yours could be different, of course, so your model specification may be different. But in this case, our null category for our final model specification, which is here, has got the null category of IIE, EMS, and assistance, and then we compared our other ones. As far as the model results, we'll probably throw in, we're going to need a couple things from this top stuff. You always want to include the -2 times the log likelihood value. In this case, the R-square values are just meaningless. They just don't mean anything for our particular set. Sometimes we can do predicted tabs. I probably won't even do that because this isn't really the ideal functional form to do it. And so we'll just use that kind of log likelihood. And maybe I'll ask you to do the chi-square. There's like a chi-square test right here, 61.68. And that one, we may put that in there. We're going to need this correlation table because we need to evaluate whether the independent variables, in this case those interactions between number of firefighters and those categories, are highly correlated. They're not, so we should be okay. We're going to use this plot, we're going to export it and put it into the template for the supplemental appendix, and then we'll use this one in the assignment as it is, and change that one. Just kind of shows you what what the rates are. But if we think about risk, fire control is the most frequent category, but it's also the highest ones, right? Search and rescue is higher, and the probability is higher in terms of the value. If we look here, where is it? Search and rescue, notice that 0.81 times 0.0 towards 0.1. So search and rescue is quite a bit more. But in terms of the highest probabilities, fire still brings out the most. That must be because we have a lot of firemen show up for fires, right? Search and rescues must be a more limited crew of some type. And then fire rescue hazard was also high as well. All right, good. That'll complete our lesson videos. You should have everything that you need to do. Go ahead and save this. So file, save this section, and then go in here, file, save this one. Save it as version 4 is the last one we have. And that should take care of our lessons. Now we're into just writing it up. Okay, good.